What's up, geometry? Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Math with Mullins. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 4.3, rotations. So we'll be able to use those rigid motions to rotate figures about the origin and describe the effects of rotations. Today our main goals are we're going to be looking at 90 degree, 180, and 270 degree rotations. For both the 90 and the 270 degree rotations, we're only going to be focusing on counterclockwise. But remember, counterclockwise for these would just be the inverse of them. So 90 degrees counterclockwise is 270 clockwise, and 270 degrees counterclockwise would be 90 degrees regular clockwise. First thing we want to define is what is a rotation. So I'm going to type this in our definition box. So we're going to have a rigid transformation that turns a figure around a fixed point, which is the center of rotation, by a certain angle. Usually you have counterclockwise and clockwise, so make sure you know those two directions. Today our main focus will be counterclockwise. Okay, so a picture of that could just be if we have this triangle ABC, and let's say that here's our center of rotation, we would just be rotating it to maybe say now that A prime would be here, B prime would be here, and C prime would be here. That's not a very great example, but you should be able to see the rotation of that. What we're going to look at now are some algebraic rules. So we have the rule method, and then we have turn your paper method. So when we rotate 90 degrees, and this is going to be counterclockwise, our x's and y's are going to reverse, and the y would change to a negative. So say we have 2, 3. What would happen here is if we would bring our y to the front, make it its opposite, so 3 becomes negative, and 2 is our x, so it hangs out in the back. Or if we had -3, -4, the y would come to the front, changing it to its opposite, so -4 changes to 4, and then the x goes to the back, still remaining the same. The other way we can do this is turning your paper method. This is going to be tricky for me to do on the screen because you're not going to be able to see me turn my screen, but turning your paper method in the opposite direction of 90 degrees and then replotting the original points. Okay, so if I'm doing that, that means I'm turning my paper this way 90 degrees, so I would give it a 90 degree rotation and plot 0, 2, so that'd be D prime, 2, 2, so that'd be right 2, up 2, E prime, and then 1, 0, that'd be right 1 and remain. Okay, so this would be my 90 degree counterclockwise rotation about the origin. So my new points are going to be -2, 0, and notice this is now going to apply to that rule. E prime, bring that y in front, change it to its opposite, keep x the same, -2, 2, and then F prime, bringing my y to the front, 0, keeping x the same, 1. That's where each one of those ended up. Okay, I like the turn your paper method when you have a paper in front of you, but if you don't, using this rule algebraically would also work. 180 degrees, that is just turning your paper upside down and replotting your points. So pretending I turned this paper all the way upside down, and then that would mean 0, 2 would end up here for D prime. E is at 2, 2, so that'd be right 2, up 2. Actually, I did that one wrong. Nope, did that one right. And then F prime would be 1, 0, so to the right 1 and remain the same. Okay, that rule, we're going to see that both of our x and our y will change to their opposites. So D prime is now 0, -2. E prime is at -2, -2, and F prime is at -1, 0. Okay, again, showing you this in class is going to be a little bit easier because I'll be able to show you how to turn your paper. So if anything, you can always use the algebraic rule. And then 270, this is again 270 counterclockwise. For x comma y, we're still going to switch around the y and the x, but this time the x will change to its negative. So one way I remember this is 270 is further along on the right on the number line, so the number on the right gets changed to its negative. The other way you can do this is turn your paper in the opposite direction, 270 degrees, so opposite would be clockwise. So that means if I start with my paper like this, here's the top, this would be 90, this would be 180, and then this would be 270, okay? Or it'd be 90 degrees counterclockwise. So if I rotate it 270, I would replot those points. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here too. So 0, 2 would be 0, 2. E prime would be 2, 2. And then F prime would be 1, 0. Okay, so here are my new points. And again, let's see how that rule works. D prime, my new point is 2, 0. So notice I brought my y to the front and made my x value its opposite, which that didn't really matter too much with the 0. But E prime, bring my y to the front, make my x negative, 2, -2. And then F prime, bring my y to my front, and then bring my x to make it negative, so 0, -1. Okay? So now we're going to try a few questions. First thing, rotating the following coordinates 90 degrees. Remember, you can do one of two things here. I would maybe pause the video so you could try this one in your notes. You can either turn your paper 90 degrees clockwise, or use our rule where we switch the y and the x, and our y is the one that becomes negative. Okay? So I'm going to use the rule where I'm going to switch my y and my x. So bring my y to the front, making it opposite. 2, keep your x the same, push it to the back. For the next one, 2, -6 will change to a +6, 2. 4, -6 changes to 6, 4. And 4, -8 changes to 8, 4. Then we graph it. 2, 8, 6, 2. I'm going to go ahead and start connecting these together. And then 6, 4, 8, 4, and then connecting it back to my original piece. So this is showing a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation about the origin, okay? So you're basically taking it from one quadrant and moving it 90 degrees counterclockwise to the next quadrant. Example 2, this would be a good one to try on your own. Go ahead and pause it here. This one is where you can turn your paper upside down. So here's the top of your paper, and then when you turn it upside down, there's your bottom, and then you just replot these points. Or use the rule, x, y is going to be -x, -y. I use the rule for this one, so 4, -1, 4, -4, 7, -4. This one's probably the easiest one to use the rule for. 4, -1 is here, 4, -4 would be down one more, and then 7, -4 to the right. Connect, there's my 180 degree rotation. Last two, we're going to look at a 270 degree rotation. Remember, this one, you can take your paper, turn it 270 degrees clockwise, and then replot those points, or use your rule, x, y is y, -x. So to think about 270 counterclockwise, you're going to think about going around the coordinates. So this would be 90, 180 would end up down here. So 270, my triangle should end up right in here. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm going to bring my y to the front, keep it the same, and then make my x the opposite. So 1, 1, 2, +5, 8, +5. Notice all my values are now positive, which means it will end up in quadrant 1. 1, 1, 2, 5, go ahead and connect that, and then 8, 5. Connecting all of them, straight lines. There we go. So that's 270 counterclockwise. Example 4, this one is where we're going to plot it and then do our 90 degree counterclockwise rotation. So let's go ahead and label those with some letters. So C, D, and F. C is at -4, 0. D is -1, -1. E is -3, -7, and F, -6, -6. Okay? Once again, to do a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation means if I'm starting here, I'm going backwards in the clock, so I'm going to end up probably right around in here. So let's see what happens. You can either turn your paper 90 degrees clockwise and replot those points, or use your rule of x comma y, where we have a -y comma x. All right, hopefully you got a chance to try it. Let's go on and see what happens. I use the rule for this one. So bring my y to the front for C, keep x the same, so 0, -4. For number or letter D, change my y to its opposite, +1, keep x the same, negative. E, my y is now going to be a 7, keep my -3. And then for my last one, F would be bringing my -6 to be a +6, pushing my x to the back. So 0, -4, going to end up here for C prime. D, 1, -1, here's D prime. E, 7, -3, and then 6, -6 for F prime. Once I label those points, connecting dots, and now I have my rotated figure 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. That'll be the end of our notes today. Thanks so much for tuning in for me. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of guidance of how to show those. And tune in next time when we start talking about our quiz review and getting that ready for next class. Have a great day. Bye.